now to the final speaker of today's session, which is Kelly Liljemo, Project Officer from the Directorate General for Informatics in the European Commission, which is responsible for the implementation of the CEF building blocks. And after Kelly has given her intervention, we will have a general Q&A for all the remaining speakers. So, Kelly, please.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you for the opportunity to close this webinar. I have only 2 slides, so I will keep it short. This is about wrapping up what we have learned today during the last hour. First, a quick mention on what were the building blocks that we are talking about. Niels already gave us a very good, kind and gentle explanation about each of these building blocks. So very quickly, just to reiterate, we had loosely coupled them into groups. The first group was about EIDA's neighbors. Those were EID, e-signature, and e-delivery building blocks. EID about authenticating citizens and interconnecting the different national EID networks. We have e-signature, which is, of course, about signing and validating legally compliant signatures. And we have e-delivery, which is about exchanging data in a secure way. Of course, then ensuring the confidentiality, integrity, and the non-repudiation of the data that you are exchanging. We also have the data economy, which is including the big data test infrastructure, which allows administrations to experiment with data or big data in a safe environment. We have the e-archiving building block, which makes sure to store and preserve your digital information also for the generations to come. And finally, this data economy building block context broker, which we have learned more about by looking at these practical examples from Vienna and Eindhoven cities who have already benefited from using this building block. We also looked at e-invoicing, which is about helping administrations get ready for the rules of the new e-invoicing directive. And finally, e-translation, which of course is about multilingualism. So these are the 8 building blocks that are there and available for you to use. We also learned why the building blocks are important from the perspective of the CDF Platform Manifesto. And we looked at how they link to the Commission's policy initiatives and the priorities through which the Commission works to support the smart cities. And the different priorities we're looking at scaling up, about using open standards, about sustainability and citizen-centric cities, and of course about working together. So then what are the different benefits? Well, looking at these building blocks, they are not something new. They are mature. They are ready to deploy. In fact, many of them have been developed as part of different large-scale pilots. So this means that experts across Europe, both public and private entities, have gone together in large consortiums to figure out how best to solve the problems that these building blocks address. So it's not something that has been done in isolation in Brussels, but it's something that has been happening throughout Europe. And they are also already used in many projects across Europe, and we are now looking to understand better how also smart cities could further benefit from using them in your projects. So they are also based on open standards. So this means that you are avoiding vendor lock-in. They are also openly available for you. And obviously, they help administrations to connect and collaborate. This means that also in longer term, it will be making it easier for you to enlarge your initiatives. So you start off based on same standards across the cities, and then in further steps, you can work better together. So how do we help you? Well, Joao mentioned there are grants available, and they are still there. So benefit while it is still possible. There are calls open currently, and you can apply for grant funding to cover part of your cost. We also have a range of services that are available to support you in your implementation journeys. And of course, we have a service desk available to answer any questions that you may have. So you can learn more about this by visiting our website. There you will find detailed information about each building block. You can also read our success stories. You can subscribe to our newsletter, etc., etc. So basically, our invitation is for you to get in touch with us, share with us information about your project, what you are doing, and maybe also we can work together to understand whether a building block is suitable for your project. So you see our email address there, so contact us using this, drop us a line, and we look forward to working together with you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Kelly, for that closing intervention. So now we enter into a final Q&A and comment round or section. So this question is for Ulrich. With technical people occasionally, it seems that there is an image problem for Fireware because of the documentation and the quality of code. Is that a general problem or something associated with specific technical people? Will the Fireware Association address this? For Ulrich.
Okay, Tom, thank you for the question or for forwarding this question. We have to know that Fireware has been created, or the creation of Fireware started some years ago in the public-private partnership of the European Commission with several leading European companies called the Future Internet PPP. That's, by the way, where the FI in Fireware is coming from. And part of this technology was developed in research and funded programs. And we had a situation 2 to 3 years ago where the quality was not sufficient. And to improve this quality and even more to bring the investment which was done into the development of this technology, and overall 500 million euro were spent into this program, and to bring that into a sustainable future, the Fireware Foundation has been created a bit more than 2 years ago. And the Fireware Foundation has several tasks, and one of these tasks is the industrialization of this technology to make sure that it has sufficient quality, that it is stable, performant, and scalable. And compared to the situation 3 years ago, the technology has made really much improvement. And having the situation that there was, for example, unstable situations, that's 2 years ago. So clearly it is a task of the Fireware Foundation to make sure that the software which is provided, which is available on GitHub, so as open source software, has sufficient quality, performance, and scalability.
Thank you very much, Ulrich. So we have a question for Kelly. When will the big data test infrastructure services become available?
Yes, so these services are already available. The building block is up and running. Keep in mind that there are certain limitations on what can be done. Of course, this is a service that is there to allow administrations to play around with big data and to understand better how they can benefit from using big data analytics in their own context. But get in touch with us to understand whether you can be part of and using this service. It's there, it's ready. Contact us.
Thank you very much, Kelly. So we have the question on how what are good ways to find consortia partners when applying for grants. On both the CEF Digital websites and the ENEA website, the Innovation and Networks Executive Agency mentioned earlier, there is a LinkedIn group called Build a Consortium, and basically it's a place where you can look for like-minded project managers or people looking to do the same. So this is a service offered by both ENEA and on CEF Digital, and we'll share that link in in the chat function at the end. If that's okay, we have one more question. Do we know who it's for? Speaking about the Vienna and Eindhoven use cases, could you share some technical details regarding the implementation use of context broker? From the presentation, it's not clear how the context broker is or was used. Thanks. So Ulrich, that's for you.
Looking at Vienna, the platform in Vienna is actually implemented using a product which is built based on the context broker. And I showed one slide with a little architecture of a context broker based application. And here in the case of Vienna, the product is called VeroCity, so it's a fiber-based smart city platform, one out of roughly 10 to 12 we have actually in the ecosystem. And here the context broker is the core element, and the second core element to make data accessible is this open API I mentioned before, which is called NGSI, now an ETSI standard. So these are the two core elements bringing data from different sources together, and in the case of Vienna, providing this information to a data lake, which is then provided to the citizens. If you or if the person who asked the question is interested to learn more about how the context broker is designed, how it is integrated in such solutions, go to the CEF website, and here you find a lot of information about the context broker, and also more technical information, tutorials, how to use the context broker, how to set up instances, and how to connect sensors to the context broker and make it happen.
Wonderful, Ulrich, very clear, I think. Thank you very much. Nils, we've had a question about what the process is for submitting your own Connecting Europe success stories. So could you maybe elaborate the process and maybe what the success stories are again, just so it's crystal clear?
Sure. I think over the course of the program, what we found is that obviously the best way is to show rather than tell. And so we have lots of information about the individual building blocks and how you can get started with them on the website. But I think what's really helpful when you're first kind of getting your head around what these building blocks are and how they're being used is to really read about how different projects have used them. So you'll find on the CEF Digital website that there is a success stories section. I think we've got about 30 or 40 success stories there covering all the building blocks with projects that are happening at European level, at national level, and at kind of local, regional. And what we'd like, obviously, hopefully in a few months down the line, we're going to have lots of success stories relevant to smart cities. So you go there, have a look at the success stories, get an understanding of what the building blocks are about, and you'll find a link on there. If you have, I don't know if anybody's out there and has used one of our building blocks in the past, but if you do, we'd love to hear from you. There's a link on there where you can send us an email, and we'll get in touch to have a discussion around that.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Nils. Maybe also worth noting that on the CEF Digital website, we also publish on the CEF monitoring dashboard quarterly updates of the reuse and uptake in a more statistical format for people who prefer stats and numbers, although I firmly prefer the success stories. Okay, so maybe it's best at this point to wrap up. So a big thank you to everyone who took the time to join this webinar, and for all our speakers who came and were able to provide some of their expertise. As I said, we will provide written answers to the questions as well, and these will be circulated via email and shared. And finally, in the comments section, you will find a satisfaction survey. So we would be very grateful if you'd take some time to let us know what you thought of this webinar and ways we can make the next one even better. So that's in the comment section, and for any other questions or queries, you have our general contacts there. So a big thank you to everyone who joined, and a big thank you to our speakers. Wishing everyone a wonderful afternoon, and let's connect Europe together. Thank you very much.